When something very major happens in a nation, what normally happens is that years later, you'll hear people asking, where were you when President John F. Kennedy was shot? What were you doing? Okay, that is a question which is still asked to this day. Well, I put it to you, many years from now, people will be asking, where were you and what were you doing when the Supreme Court nullified the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017? Now get me right, it has nothing to do with the individuals involved, or rather it has little to do with the individuals involved. It has more to do with the fact that it is a major turning point in the history of our country. When I received the news, I shouted, I screamed. Okay, I'll just be very honest. And the people around me were a bit surprised because they had not received the news. Okay, and then I sat down for quiet reflection. Tears were rolling down my cheek as I thought about my nation, Kenya. I'm not ashamed to say I cried. I cried for the millions of people who are suffering in the country called Kenya, who wake up every day hoping for a better day. The millions of Kenyans who have suffered injustices untold. Yeah, I remember that kid was clobbered to death. I remember the family of the late Msando. Yeah, the children left without a father and with a very uncertain future. Yeah, I took a few moments to cry. Anyway, this recording is not about me. Millie Adhiambo had a very interesting reaction. When the decision was announced, she removed her lawyer's robes and she lay prostrate on the ground, crying. When she got up, she said, I had promised the Lord that I would lie prostrate on the ground in front of the Supreme Court, Yes, it was an emotional moment, and especially for people who come from our side of the country. I remember the tragic shooting of a person who was very responsible for our independence, one of the founding fathers, Thomas Odhiambo Mboya, on the streets of Nairobi. That same evening, the person who pulled the trigger went to a party to celebrate the death of this great Kenyan. Yes, that is how serious impunity is in our country. Anyway, let me not get off topic and talk about a lot of other things. That's how Millie celebrated. Okay? And that's how she let her emotions out. It's a very emotional moment for Kenya. It's a very emotional moment because in the last few days before this judgment, we have seen one of the greatest injustices ever meted upon the people of Kenya in the history of our country. Where so many women, so many people, so many women, men who had lined up from the early hours of the morning. Their work, their vote was just reduced to zero. So, I pose the question, where were you when the Supreme Court ruling came in? I'd like to hear, I'd like to know. It would be very interesting for me to hear. And I'm sure a lot of the other members of this channel. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.